Yeah, man. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Daily Money Markets. First day of the week. It's Monday today. Actually, I'm bringing you today's Africa Market Report, man. So yeah, there's a couple of things that we noticing in terms of a local market, in terms of Africa market, and some stories that are happening. So yeah, we just want to bring you through those stories and see how actually in terms of the business it's actually performing across the Africa. There's a lot of things that are actually happening at the moment. When we talk about the coups, we talk about the geopolitics, we talk about Somalia, a new coup, evolving again, starting to evolve again. So there's a lot of things when it comes to Africa at the moment, but maybe we're going to just have to look in the bright things, things that can actually give us a little bit of motivation. Another thing is it's a year of, a year of elections. A lot of countries around Africa also, they're going to have elections. So definitely it's going to, give a little bit of volatility to the businesses because of the elections. So yeah, last time when we did the Africa Market Report, the only disappointing thing there, we saw different types of countries actually, goes all the way to IMF and start taking, some money from IMF. And it was really, really, horrible, when it comes to, seeing a lot of, especially countries that they're not developed, they're underdeveloped, or countries that they're starting to push, to start pushing themselves, but they're keeping on getting money from World Bank, they're keeping on getting money from, IMF, International Monetary Funds, and which is, it's a loan. These things, they're loans, but you need to, make sure you raise up the interest rate for people that are living in that, country, and especially those that are working, they're the ones that are actually taking a hard knock because they're the ones who have to pay more, and so that you can now start benefiting, or paying back your loan. All right. So without wasting time, actually, I just wanted to give you some few things in terms of Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Right now, Johannesburg Stock Exchange, all shares property, they're sitting at negative 8,226. That's the stock at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. It's called all share, all properties. And then there's all share also, they're negative. So you can see a lot of stocks in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, they are all sitting on a negative. All shares minus 0.33%, 73,374. A share price capped shareholder weighted top 40. Again, it's on a negative 0.22%, 19,480 per share price. Capped shareholders with all shares, not top 40, the all shares are sitting at negative 0.24, which is 20,523 as a stock price, as the stock price. A shareholder weighted all shares minus again 0.24. So we're seeing almost everything in terms of Johannesburg Stock Exchange this morning, they're actually sitting at negative. The reason being, probably it might be the rand is not performing that well, so that's why we cannot be able to see the positivity in terms of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange share price. All right. The other interesting news, it's actually ICG. I don't know if people have been following in terms of South Africa goes all the way to International Criminal Court, the International Criminal Justice Court, and actually rare case against the Israel, so that they can stop in terms of genocide. So what caught me as well is today, I think there was, yesterday, that's where there was another news that comes from South Africa and International Criminal Court. So South Africa latestly requested the World Court against the possible offensive by the Israel in southern Gaza harvests the Hamas and is an attempt to stop Israel from defending itself. The Israel foreign minister said on last week, Wednesday, said, whatever South Africa they're trying to do, take the case, all the way to International Criminal Justice Court. It's actually to stopping them by defending themselves, which is not really, quite right. It's just propaganda statement, if you might say. So South Africa on Tuesday asked the International Court of Justice, ICJ, to consider whether Israel plans to extend its offensive in Gaza into the city of Rafah, requires the additional emergency measures to protect the Palestinian rights. So this is actually, they're just happening. And today, while we're talking on Monday, there was already a conference, a press conference. I was checking the press conference that International Criminal Court judges, they're actually, considering how Israel, they want to extend this war all the way to the city of Jeddah. So Israel has also said it is planning to expand its ground assault into Rafah, city of Rafah, where over 1 million Palestinians have sought refugee from the offensive that has laid waste to much of the Gaza Strip since Hamas militarily attacked Israel on October 7. So this is ongoing case that South Africa, they're keeping on pushing it, and locally, if you're in South Africa, we see the governing National Party, ANC, wearing the scarf of, of Palestinians, and the Lagaria changing in terms of, brand, adding the Palestinians flag, not a flag as such, a scarf of Muslim or Arab scarves, adding it to their Lagaria, just to, so that they can, it should look like they're really, really, standing with the Palestinians. So that's what cooking in terms of ICJ and South Africa. But another story also that caught my attention, it's Ivory Coast Cocoa Council say it will not default on a contract despite the bean shortage, right? And if you're gonna go through my Africa, report, the videos, you're going to see there's a part where there's a video where we were talking about the cocoa. Cocoa is one of the products that actually Ivory Coast produce, right? And they actually export this product to Europe, and the Europeans, they create different types of things, food, medications, milk, and so on and so forth. And now it's been a shortage of cocoa because of the drought that has been happening, in Ivory Coast or in East Africa. So the Abidjan Ivory Coast Cocoa and Coffee Council will not default on its export contracts despite a drop in cocoa production since the start of October to March. Many crop managing director Ivan Bahama Kony is the one who said. His remarks followed the report that as a traders are scrambling for beans industry, experts are predicting ever widely deficit this season and have grown concerns for the last week. Reuters Cocoa's poor focus and the global deficit to 375,000 tons in the 2023-2024 season. So the tons has been reduced. The farmers, they're not actually, producing cocoa enough, and as well as beans, because beans are so, cocoa, beans, and coffee, these are one of the major products that Ivory Coast, Ghana, they actually, produce. So there's a shortage of cocoa, and it's becoming really, really a massive story because of, how actually, the cocoa brings money to countries like Ivory Coast when they export this product to overseas. All right, so that's about cocoa. But another issue that we're seeing in South Africa from Anglo-Americans, plans to cut thousands of jobs, cuts after profit purge, right? I think that's why also we are seeing Johannesburg Stock Exchange having a little bit of negative in terms of the share price because of companies like, Anglo-Americans, the big companies that are listed in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange on all those all shares or top 40 shares. So if they're not bringing, the earnings, their earnings positively, definitely we might see the knock. That is why we're seeing the negative on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange shares. All right. So Anglo-American Platinum said on Monday it plans to cut thousands of jobs at its main in South Africa after the profit pledged by 71% last year. The Anglo-American AAL unit said in a statement that it is embarking on a restructuring that could affect about 3,700 jobs at the South African operations as it battles to keep the lead on a cost earning the failing platinum group metal prize. So another trouble there when it comes to the the company that produce platinum, mining company, Anglo-American Platinum, Gold, and all those stuff. They're actually having really trouble at the moment. So, all right. All right. All right. So this is actually another a big issue, especially a big company like mining company that produce a lot of employment. And if they are cutting the jobs to 3,700, that's a lot. So that's another issue that we are seeing. But the other side of Africa, things are actually, moving. There was actually today a conference in Addis Ababa, about the Africa Economic, Forum, that they were talking about how to increase trade in Africa. And that's, I think, one of the bright things that I'm seeing, for past 2 months now. There's been a lot of Africa Forum happening. And that gives a little bit of, confidence to say that, things are starting, to come correct, except if they stop borrowing a lot of money from these, international groups. All right. Moving on to Ghana, Accra. Ghana's new financial minister pledged to keep IMF program on track, right? This is another story where we're crying about, African country taking money from international monetary funds, so that they can try to help themselves. And now we are seeing the minister, it's saying from Ghana, say that, hey, let's keep this thing on track, because otherwise, these guys, they have no mercy. They will come and take the money, anyway, and it will affect, the citizen of the country. So Accra, Ghana, a new finance minister, Mohamed Amina Adam, pledged on Thursday to keep 3 billion international monetary fund on a track as it aims to finish restructuring its overseas debt before an election on December. As I said, it's a very election year to different types of, region in Africa, including Ghana as well, in December. So President Nana Akufo-Addo replaced Kenny Ofori-Attah with Adam, a petroleum economist who was Minister of State at the financial minister in a cabinet reshuffle after criticism of ex-bank's leadership during the West Africa country West economic crisis in a generation. So, as we said, the president of Ghana has fired the minister of finance, get another minister of finance, and this is the guy that is coming in and say that they're gonna keep on track on that 3 billion loan, 13 billion loan from International Monetary Fund. So Ofori-Attah negotiated the IMF bailout loan to address the crisis, which saw the inflation and debt savings cost spiritual upwards in 2022. He was also alongside Adam seeking a relief on about 13 billion owed to the private bondholders when he was actually removed from a ministry position. So we can see Ghana taking money from international monetary funds. Again, that affects the inflation of interest rate. We can see already the saying in the article, it affected the inflation of interest rate. And now the new minister tried to come and try to have the agreement or negotiation with the International Monetary Fund so that they can be able to pay bit by bit, and at the same time try to maintain their interest rate in the specific region in Ghana, to be specific. So it's really trouble when it comes to all these borrowing money from different types of different types of organization from overseas, from World Health Organization to International Monetary Fund to the World Bank Organization. These are really big organizations that people has to take the money, but with caution. They have to understand how it works so that it shouldn't affect a lot of citizens in that specific country. All right, moving on to Nigeria. Nigeria plans the commodity board to regulate the food price as inflation soars. So every single country is struggling with the inflation. The inflation rate is keeping on going up and up and up, and that is becoming a challenge. In Abuja, Nigeria is planning to set up a national commodity board to regulate the price of grains and other items as rising food costs stock doubles the digital inflation in a country where smallholder farmers dominate production. All right, so Nigerians' annual inflation hit a nearly 3 decades high of 28.92% in December as the food prices surged. Additional to a worsening cost of living crisis, inflation data for January is due on Thursday. So Thursday, we're going to see the inflation data coming from Nigeria. So that we can see how actually, the economy there and how the economy is moving from the side of Nigeria. So the Vice President of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima, said on Tuesday that the National Commodity Board will maintain a strategic food reserve that could be used to reduce the volatility and stabilize the price and track escalating food inflation in Africa's most popular nation. You see, so the food inflation, which accounts for the bulk of Nigeria inflation basket, roses to 33.93% in December from 32.84% in a month earlier, right? So it's rising from 32% to 33%, all the way with a higher price abroad range of the item, including bread, fish, meat, fruits, and eggs. Crisis, therefore, in terms of the food rising price in Nigeria. And one other thing in terms of Nigeria, in terms of how Nigeria, interesting part of Nigeria in terms of the business, is that majority of people that actually sell food, they are local farmers. There are lots of local farmers that they buy from the producers or from the farmers, and they take it to the markets. They have a free market where people they can be able to go and buy those type particular food. So if there is no regulator or regulated price for that industry, the inflation of the price of the food can actually jump at any time, depending if I'm not finding the product from the farmers. Then if the demand is high and the supply is low, I'll be able to raise the price of the food that I'm selling. The only problem is that when these people or farmers are raising the price, there's no regulations. There's no regulations to say that this is how we can be able actually to raise this price. So it's different, for example, from a country like South Africa, whereby majority of people, they don't buy on a street or on a local, businesses, in a local business or local farmers or local businesses, but they buy their food from the shops, right? So there's the biggest shops in South Africa is like Pick n Pay, Shoprite, Checkers, and you name it. There's different shops that are also evolving from different, from different sector, if I may say, of food processing and food product. So there is a regulator that regulates this food, right? I think one of them, I just forget the name of it, but one of the, I think it's competition. I think it's a price competition competitor, something like that. These are the guys that actually check the price of the product and compare it with other, competitors in the same industry and make sure that people, they're not, getting ripped off. But the other disadvantage about that is that if these big stores that decided to put a price range at this mark, right? They can't drop it, right? It will be from that mark going upwards. So where people from South Africa, they are actually highly to spend more in terms of buying food in the shops, because the price range is from the certain market, right? It's different than someone who's selling on a street. If I go to market and find that product, like maybe, let's say for example, rice, it's expensive, I will increase a little bit of price. But if I find that rice, it's actually decreased, my price will be, on a same level, or even I can reduce it, because I'm going to have a different type of competition amongst the markets, because everyone is getting this in a little bit of affordably. So that's actually what, the difference between countries like Nigeria, where they depend on the local farmers, to actually produce or to sell the products, like countries like South Africa, where we actually depend to the big shop, chain shops to actually, sell us the product. All right. So we already see the Ghana's president replaced the financial minister because of the crisis that was happening there, with the IMF, International Monetary Fund, borrowing the money. All right. Another IMF news, right? I'm really not liking, these, every time when I try to check in terms of, Africa news reports, the articles, it's all about the IMF, that means there's a challenge. So IMF says Zimbabwe should speed up the currency reform, right? Remember, Zimbabwe doesn't have their own, currency. The Zim dollar has depreciated long ago, and then they've been using, different types of, currencies like dollars, euros, to do the business. Although they tried to introduce the new, currency, the new Zim dollar, but I'm not sure how far it is. So let's see. In Harare, what's going on? Harare, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, on Wednesday, encouraging Zimbabwe to speed up a currency reforming at the end of the staff visit, saying the authorities should move towards the market-driving exchange rate and remove distortions currently in the price. The visit discussed in Zimbabwe requested for an IMF staff monitoring program, part of the Southern Africa country's effort to re-engage with the international financial community by demonstrating a track record of sound of economic policies. So Zimbabwe has not been able to secure a financing from the likes of the IMF for more than 2 decades due to the areas in service its debt to lender, including the World Bank and the African Development Bank, the European Investment Bank. That's a lot that Zimbabweans are struggling to actually, service their debts from IMF, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, the European Investment Bank. That's pretty much a lot of, debts that actually, it's actually affecting the Zim. But of course, we know what's going on, in Zim in terms of the politics, how the politics works there. How these guys have been sanctioned for over 2 decades, 3 decades, without being able to sell their product elsewhere, or that be able to have the investors and do business in them. That's where it become a very, very, a challengeable situation to handle. So the IMF is currently precluded from providing financial support to Zimbabwe due to its unstable debt situation and official external areas, the IMF said on a statement. So an IMF financial arrangement would require a clear path to comprehensive restructuring of Zimbabweans' external debt, including the clearance of areas and a reform plan that consists with a durable restoring macroeconomic stability. So Zimbabwe Central Bank and the financial minister have said they are working on measures to stabilize the Zimbabwean dollar, which has fallen about 40% against the United States dollar since the start of the new year. All right. So that's the story again from Zim. And when it comes to Zim, I don't really have a lot to judge, because of, I know the sanctions has actually, affected them for very, very long time. and it's not easy to actually turn everything, back to normal the way it was. And at the same time, so the politics of Zim has been really, really, really data politics, has been really, really trouble and challenging. So those are type of things that actually affect a lot of countries in terms of international monetary funds and borrowing money, and again keeping on maintaining those type of relationship with the IMF or World Bank or European banks and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been seeing for past 2 weeks and what is being forwarding now in terms of the Africa market reports. And yeah, man, let's keep subscribing on the videos so that at least the channel can grow. We can have more viewers and we can have more research and more information bringing it. Yeah, so this was Africa Market Report. Thank you.